Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Whatever you're comfortable with. I think it works okay, but it's up to you. Totally up to you.
Can y'all hear me? Is
You gotta hold
anyone
it closer.
like this?
Yeah. Can y'all hear Chris?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, does somebody need me to take my mask off so they can hear me better or? Okay, because
Yes.
I understand that. Okay, for y'all.
So Chris, hi,
Hi,
how are you today?
I'm happy to be here.
I'm happy you're here. Chris and I talked all week and let's give Chris a round of applause real quick before we start. I'll tell you what, let's trade seats. This mic's hotter for you. That one actually is way better. I'll use this one.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You want my tacos?
No.
Okay,
Gracias.
just checking. I'm an equal opportunity share of tacos. All righty, Chris. So how long have you been at St. Luke's?
25 years.
Okay, in those 25 years, how would you rate? No, I'm just kidding. I was gonna say, how would you rate St. Luke's on a scale of 1 to 10? No. Look at that awkward laughter. Those people want to do it. Okay, so question. You love to dance.
I love to dance.
What's your favorite kind of dance?
Tango, Argentine style tango.
Okay. Now, my understanding is you have an experience of joy in the tango. Can you share that with us?
Yes.
Go for it. I'm ready.
November 2019, Albuquerque, New Mexico, my husband and I went to a tango festival. That's where you go and you spend an entire weekend. You take tango classes during the day if you have the energy, and you dance tango at night, sometimes till some people go till 5 in the morning. So there's traditional style Argentine tango music. And I like the afternoon milongas, you know, I'm old. And the afternoon milongas, a milonga is the place where tango's danced. And they had an alternative music milonga. So it's not just normal tango music. They also have contemporary music. And so I heard that song White Rabbit by Jefferson Airplane. I mean, that's how alternative it can get, you know, and that, you know, that whole social revolution of the 60s and this music's playing. And my friend from Austin, who I dance with a lot, and I love to dance with him. He's a wonderful, wonderful tango dancer. And we start dancing and he's doing the same thing we always do here in Austin, but like Gracie Slick is playing, you know, and I'm wanting to break out. Well, Argentine tango is different. It's a dance of improvisation. You don't even know what foot your leader is going to start out on. Everything is in the embrace. The lead comes from the embrace. I mean, if your leader so much as goes like that with their shoulder, that means they are inviting you to move there. But as a follower in Argentine tango, I can accept the invitation the leader has offered me, or I can buck. I have that freedom. So he's doing the same old, and I'm doing it, but the music is starting to move me in a different way. And I have been as submissive a follower, as sweet as I can be, but suddenly I start, no, you know, and he doesn't like that, you know, this isn't going well. So we finally finish and, you know, thank you very much. And he does not ask me to dance for the rest of the weekend. So I saunter off and I'm just like, feeling like I really need to dance. And they start playing a cumbia. Cumbia. I'm like, wow, this is alternative, all right. Cumbia, I barely know cumbia. And I say out loud, wow, this is a cumbia. And I'm walking by and I see this older gentleman, I wouldn't say maybe, I don't know, 65, 70, strong. And I'm like, this is a cumbia. And he says, do you know cumbia? And I say, no. And he's standing up, offering me his hand. And I'm like, no, really, I don't know cumbia. And anyway, he starts dancing with me. And I noticed right away that he knows bones. Like he's moving the way he's leading in such a way that's causing me to be able to move like a real Latina and not a Latina wannabe, which I am. And I'm like, wow, look at this, you know? So we start talking and he's like understanding me and he's kind of meeting me right where I am. And I'm just like, whoa, this is different. And then a samba comes on because in tango you dance 3 dances. A tanda is three, not just one dance. And it's kind of a samba. I'm like, samba? I don't know samba. Same thing starts happening. He starts moving me. And I start feeling like I'm on Mardi Gras in Brazil, you know, like I can do samba. You know, it was amazing. And anyway, so then he starts telling me like he likes different forms and he leans me on his hip kind of. And so I relax, I trust this guy. Yeah. And then he starts moving his foot at my foot until like my feet are moving out and I'm going off axis. You know, he's got me and I'm in this full lean and I'm thinking about, wow, how did I get here? And I think I'm okay. And then the dances proceed. And anyway, that ends. Later that night, I saw him again. And I'm like, hey. And he's like, oh, you're here. And he invited me, you know, I want to dance a tango with you. Okay. So we go, we dance, we start dancing. And I just want to say, like, if you leave me alone with a remote control, for the TV, I will default to a dance show. Just watch. And I've spent my life, you know, watching these dance shows and seeing them dance, like on Dancing with the Stars, and just marveling and like really wanting, like, wow, that's amazing, but I'll never do that. You know, that's never going to happen, but I could enjoy watching it. Yeah. Well, I'm dancing and we're doing, it's tango now and it's wonderful. And it's like, a really great connection. And I feel comfortable and confident. And the next thing I know, both of my feet are off the ground. I am in the air. I don't know what's happening, but I remembered being in my lazy boy with the remote control, seeing him on Dancing with the Stars. And I go, put your head back, just put your head back, you know? And I did like Lindsay, you know, just went back. And I mean, I am being carried in the air and I am having the time of my life. I mean, it was amazing. And when we finished, he gave me his card and said, next time you go to a festival, promise me you'll let me know. You know, and I take the card and I walk away and I don't even know what to say. What do you say to someone? I just said, God bless you. You know, and I'm holding the card and I go back up from the dance floor and I'm like, whoa, what just happened? I just lived the dream. I just lived the deepest longing I've ever had. I didn't even know I had, was just given to me. And so I look at the card and I see his name and underneath it, it says, dance instructor. And I start laughing because he told me I said, how come you can do this? How come you know how to move so well? He said, oh, I'm just an Iowa farm boy. But he knew I would be intimidated. And so I start laughing. I mean, like just laughing. This guy was like, dance instructor. I said, ha ha ha. And I'm laughing. And then I'm starting to laugh so hard, I have to lean against the wall. Right. And it's a big dance hall. There's 3 dance floors, people dancing tango. Then I'm laughing so hard, I start crying. It turns from like laughter to crying. And then I'm like in a daze and tears are streaming down my face. And I go back to my table, all my Austinites, right? And I'm just, tears are coming down my face. And and my friend goes, nice tanda, huh? You know? And I'm like, listen. And then I realize what is happening to me. I don't understand what's happening. what is this feeling I have? And then I thought, oh, I think this is joy. I think this is joy. And I think what just happened is that I had to fall apart. Like I fell apart. And it was like I had to fall apart because there was no room for that joy in me. It had to like shake its way in. And once it came in, like I will always have that dance. I will always have that joy. It made its home in me. And I carry that. So that's my tango story.
Thank you. See, every time when she first told me this story, I was sitting there thinking, I want to be lifted. I just actually want to be able to move with some kind of rhythm. But on that bombshell, what I want to do is I want us to break into our first table time. And I want the table leaders reference your email. Okay, reference your email. And let's talk about the first question after you kind of get the group warmed up. Now, folks, I really encourage you to share and to talk as you're comfortable, everybody in your tables. And really, let's talk about an experience of joy. An experience of joy, inside or outside the church. Now that Chris has shared such a powerful image, I mean, that is powerful. I love that. I love Dancing with the Stars, but I can go off about that. Let's focus on joy. Let's focus on that moment of tears and laughter and that intersection. So we'll call you back in a little bit, maybe about 20 minutes or so, just to talk amongst yourselves. So Chris, before you go over there.
Alrighty, everybody, alrighty. Chris Rose, you get back up here. Come on down, you're back on the Price is Right Showcase Showdown number 2, roll the dice.
We're gonna try to get to $1. That story got you $1. You won the Showcase Showdown on the first one. That's what I think. Let's give Chris another round of applause. That was really
Stop.
We're not gonna have, today we're not gonna have group sharing, and there's a reason for that. We really want y'all to be in the sanctity of your groups. We want you to have that space. That's why I wasn't floating around trying to eavesdrop and hear everybody's stories. And as much as I'm from South Georgia, and that's what we do. I fought that urge. So that's important to me. I want y'all to know that. That's part of what this is about, is building that community. And each week you might end up sitting with different people. And that's a really powerful experience, especially when we talk about embrace. So Chris, in your time here at St. Luke's, 30,000 years. Feels like that, doesn't it? I've only been here 2.5, and it feels like 15,000. Because of those people that laugh. I'm just kidding. Okay, so I love the image in your story about lifting, being lifted. That's a powerful image. There's 2 things really that stuck out to me. The embrace that this dance, because I like Dancing with the Stars, but I realized when you watch that, except when they do the Argentine tango, now it makes sense when they do the practice for that. I never was like, why is there not steps? Like, what are they doing? I don't understand. All your other ones, y'all are clearly doing steps. That this is kind of ebb and flow between you and a partner. And that embrace, that really for me struck a chord, because when I think about what God intends for us and how God holds us, it's exactly like that. Like God knows our bones. Like he's moving us.
Dry bones.
I know, right? And the dry bones do what? They rattle. And then what comes right after the rattling? The breath. When they come to life, they get flesh and breath and life. And you know when you're kind of, and I feel like that's human, that's our like life, right? We're dry sometimes. We'll just stop there. Let's just all bask in that for a moment. We're dry sometimes. We have to get our holy eczema therapy. And then we come back, right? We come back and we're rattling. And we know when we start rattling that new life is coming. So Chris, in your time here at St. Luke's, is there anything in particular that jumps out at you as a time you just felt lifted by this community, felt embraced and lifted, and kind of felt that God moment through somebody else?
Many times.
Can you share a couple?
Well, I have a prayer partner from here. She's the one that brought me to St. Luke's, and she's shy, so she won't let me say her name. She's praying for me right now. And I meet with her every Wednesday. We've been meeting for 25 years. And so every Wednesday, I pour my heart out to her, and she does the same. And then we pray for each other. And like 25 years ago, I would almost panic when it was time to pray, because I would be trying so hard to listen, to make sure I get everything, give God the grocery list, what my friend needs, right?
That's the way we all do it.
But 25 years changes things. And now I don't have to worry about it as much, because now we know, like, she's taught me, because it really happened more through her and me walking and watching God work through her. You know, she says things like, Lord, I know you know what we need already. So she lifts me up every single week. That's a big one.
That is a big one. That is a big one.
I had a pew thought. Does this happen to y'all? Like during church, you're sitting there and you get a thought out of nowhere. And it just happened at the service about being lifted up. When I felt lifted, I forgot when we did community hope training to be lay chaplains. It occurred at St. Luke's right at the time that we were trying to have family dinners. So it was like lay chaplain, family dinner. Now what do I do? I'm in trouble because I'm going to have to forego my family time to be a lay chaplain. How is that going to happen? And Pat Beachy figured out they have lay chaplain training, the same training over at Julia of Norwich. And she like stuck up for me and got me into training at another time so that I could have my lay chaplain training and eat my cake with my family, for dinner. So she literally lifted me to somewhere else where I could get what I needed for ministry and for my family without taking away from my family. I remember that.
One of the things that sticks out to me there is you eat cake for dinner, and that was really exciting. But that aside, I want to come to your house for supper. Right, so like what I love about those are really big stories for you.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I think we're looking for the big things like, oh, they were here lifting me up in this really horrifically tragic time in my life, which is true.
Yes.
Right. There are examples of that throughout my life in other faith communities that came around me, even at a time which is hard for me to, well, it's not hard for me to say out loud because it's part of who I am. But there was a time where I was so mad at God when I lost my uncle, right? You've heard me, I've said this in different sermons and used different parts of this story, but essentially he was diagnosed with multiple myeloma in October and he was dead in May. And I was in college and I've never been so mad in my life as I was right there. Because like a lot of people are right now, right? Like during this pandemic, why has God let that happen? Why does God let that happen? Why would you take my uncle? I didn't care about anybody else's uncle. Just why my uncle? Why would you put my family through this? Why would you do that? And it was a Catholic community at the University of Georgia, the Student Center. A group of people lifted me up. I had a priest look at me and say, yeah, be mad at God. Let me show you a psalm where they're mad at God. Like, that's totally cool. Like, you should do that. You should definitely let God know because God knows you're already mad at him. Why hide it? Like, let him have it. Let me show you a psalm. And he read the Psalms with me, like a bunch of them. He just started reading them off to me. Then I come to find out this Catholic priest was raised Episcopalian, which now I kind of want to go back and be like, so what went wrong? But in that moment, and then a bunch of students and professors who made up that community really came around me and lifted me up. I mean, that's a really horrific part of my life. I was pretty much done with church. I was done with this whole thing, but thankfully an intergenerational group of people who were willing to give me a chance and drop their own stuff came around me. But then there's little ways. And that's what I was thinking about in your story. Like, we have these moments where people help us figure out how to have family dinner. And then we have these moments where people are picking us off the ground. And that's really what relationship's all about. That's what the embrace is all about. That's what connection's all about. It's how we hold each other. Right? It's how do we pick each other up? How do we care for one another? So Chris, in your life, can you talk about a challenging time when you might have been in a position to really be there for somebody and lift them up, but you were having some barriers? Can you talk about that?
Parenting.
I like how you just did that, right? I mean, that would have been my go-to right there. Parenting. Say more. Say more about that.
Well, I reached a point, I guess part of what brought me to St. Luke's was overdoing it. Like, my need for approval was so high that I was trying to be all things to all people. And it gets tricky when you mix it with church, right? Because you think, is God calling me to this? And what I ended up, someone here, it was Marcia Paisley, she wouldn't she told me St. Luke's is, I came here, I was burnt out. And Marcia told me, St. Luke's is a place, you're probably not gonna like this. She said, St. Luke's is a place where it's okay to say no. You can say no to things and it will be
It's not okay.
respected.
It's not okay. Just disregard that statement. Continue, Chris. Continue. Please
Sorry.
continue.
But then those behavior patterns, they don't change overnight. You know, God works gradually, slowly over time. And, you know, you fall and you start doing the same thing again. And again, I ended up pretty burnt out, you know, for my own, it was my fault. I did it. You know, my husband was traveling all the time and I had no family in town. And I was just really having a hard time. And so I made an appointment and I got with Parker. And he was wonderful because he met me right where I was. And he explained to me something I didn't realize, like the circle. You know, he said, there are times of giving and there are times when you need to be replenished and it's okay. You know, you go through this. So it kind of allowed me to accept where I was and do what I needed to do so that I could be there for my kids when my husband was gone and the whole thing was on my shoulders. Is that the kind of thing?
Yeah, totally. And there's one thing that's really powerful that I think we all should hear in that is what Parker modeled for you, which I know you've done for others because I've seen it with my own eyes. Meeting people where they are. Like when I think about your work at Armadillo RV Park, for those who didn't know, Chris is really the linchpin along with a few others, but the consistent linchpin in our relationship with the Armadillo RV Park and being an advocate for those that have fallen through the cracks. What better way to embody Jesus than to speak for those whose voice has been thwarted to some degree? And that's meeting people where they are. And I think sometimes we have to remind ourselves of that, to remind ourselves that our job is not to come with all the answers and pretend we know what's best. Our job is to meet people where they are and learn from them, to go into any kind of relationship assuming, right? We do this with God. We do this with God. Sometimes that's in our laundry list of prayers that you God, I know a little bit better than you do right now of what I need. I need this. I need to win the lottery. And then I need you to do this. And I need you to do this. Versus coming right into the space. And it's true with each other, right? How do you meet somebody where they are and really listen? That really deep listening and abiding with that person. That's really the trick. And Parker did that for you. And that's powerful. And you do it obviously for a lot of other people.
I have a funny one.
Go for it. I like funny.
There's one more I want to share just in her memory, Mary Dugan.
Please, let's do it.
Okay, so my husband was a CEO. He had 120 employees and he sold his company, and overnight he came home to an employee he thought of one, me. So he's used to managing 120 people. I'm used to running the house by myself. And, well, not by myself. He was there too, but boom, boom, like overnight. So we start fighting, like power struggles and all those
It's
things
like
that
the Argentine
no one
tango.
ever talks about. Yeah, Argentine
You were just
tango.
bucking.
And I'm dancing tango with him now. We made it through, but it was rough. And I started getting worried. I started getting serious. I started saying to people, man, we're fighting all the time. I don't know what to do, blah, blah, blah. So I come to the church basement and, you know, it's like Ladies Bible store or whatever. And I'm getting my big eyes and getting my big worry. We're fighting all the time, blah, blah, blah. Mary Dugan. She looks at me. She goes, ah! She starts laughing at me, like laughing. And I'm looking and she's laughing and I'm starting to get uncomfortable. And then she's like double over laughing. She yells out to someone, I don't know who it was. I don't know if it was you, Jan, or someone. She goes, her husband retired and they're fighting all the time. And then the other one comes over and they start laughing. And I'm thinking, this is church lady advice. You know, and so she looks at me, she gets herself together, and then they're just like kind of giggling about it. Or they're not the least bit worried at all. And they just say, honey, it's like, I'm a Yankee, so It's like those two horses, with the chaw thing in between them, one going one way, one going the other. It's just going to take time. It's just going to take time. And of all the advice of all the things, Mary Dugan, she was right. It just took time.
Time heals all usually. It's just, are we willing to wait for it? Well, folks, I want to send you back. Thank you. Thank you to Chris. Thank you to Chris. This is good. Thank you. Thank you so much, Chris, for sharing a
Thanks,
big part of your life.
Thanks for putting up with me.
So for the remainder of our time, and I really encourage you to pick up wherever you left off and then really think, I really want to, and table leaders, I'm tweaking things a little bit. I really want you to think and talk about times when you felt lifted up here at St. Luke's and even outside of St. Luke's. What was that like? What made that special? What do you hold on to? What's that powerful moment that you remember? Like Mary Dugan, I'll never forget this now, right? This image of her, because we've all seen her do this, right? Buckling over and laughing in the minute of your high anxiety, just breaking the mold just in the way it needed to be broken. So take some time and let's talk more about being lifted up and holding one another, and what does it mean to really kind of be in that space and finding God and joy in one another. So folks, I'm going to leave you to it, and we will see you next week, but please continue to talk amongst yourselves about that. Thank you.